Hi everyone, and welcome back to another amazing episode of Becoming the Light from the Shadows of Abuse. And as always, I'm going to ask today's guest to introduce herself to you. But just to give you a taster, I'm speaking today to Kellie Carter-Bell, and she's a 23-year survivor and thriver of domestic abuse. And because of what she's been through, obviously, like all of you, all of my amazing guests, she has a passion for paying it forward and helping others in a similar situation. So thank you, Kellie. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate it.
It's an absolute pleasure and honor. Thank you.
So, thank you. So maybe you can just tell everyone listening a bit more about yourself and what you do, what you're doing at the moment. I know you have this passion for paying it forward. So what does that look like, and what does that mean to you?
So what that looks like and what that means to me is I share my story as much as possible. A story of, as you said, 23 years domestic violence. I have a really positive outlook on my life now. I do as many speeches as I can and reach as many people as possible that would be in my situation that I was in just up until 14 years ago, and just try and let women, children and males, that let them know that anything's possible, and when you're ready to break the cycle, you can do it.
Yeah, and I think that's the wonderful thing about the stories that get told on here. Obviously, everyone has the same, we're all hoping for the same thing, you know, to inspire people who, and obviously, as you know, it's terribly debilitating to the self-esteem, and so many people are trapped and feeling that there is no other way and that they really can't get free. And I love this attitude that everyone who comes on here has, that I've done it, you can, I was where you are, and if you really want to, you can. And none of us say it's easy. In fact, we all say it's hard, but we all say that you can do it. What's harder, staying stuck where you are and living like this for the rest of your life, or making the decision and taking the steps. So yeah, thank you so much for that. And obviously, as always, please just tell us just start at the beginning and tell us your story, which we'd love to hear.
Okay, so I was born into a family of drugs, domestic violence. Yeah, I have 5 sisters. I had 3 sisters older than me, and by the age, I'll just jump a little bit forward. By the age of 13, I had my first partner and my first black eye, and that to me was as ritual as a morning coffee. That was so normal. So prior to that, three sisters of my 5 were heroin addicts and have all passed to heroin. So I remember one night waking up in the middle of the night. I grew up in a commission complex. I probably was about 11 years old, and I could hear my sister getting beaten downstairs by her boyfriend. And I got up and I looked out the window and I turned around and I went back to sleep. That's how normal it was to me. So yeah, by the age of 13, I was with my first partner and I had my first black eye.
I think it's really important to say here how deep that conditioning was. It's important to make that point, because we are all a product of our experiences and our environment.
Yes.
And of course, when that is what you are used to, then it's normal.
Yes.
And for that to be normal at 13, at 11, for most people, it's just horrific, a horrific idea.
I think what happened to me prior to that was probably more horrific, and I was gang raped regularly during high school, and that was probably the years of 11, 12. That was before I got with my first partner. But you know what? That wasn't my fault, and that took me
No.
till the age of 36 to understand. So that's how deep the conditioning was. And my sister's father, the three sisters that have passed to heroin, their father was a criminal, and my dad was a policeman, and he come to arrest their dad. And when their dad went to jail, my mum and him decided to have an affair, and here is me. So with that,
So
go on.
So are you saying that your dad, just to show that this has no geographical or socioeconomic boundaries, it happens everywhere. So are you saying that your dad was the policeman, but that he was also beating your mum?
No, he wasn't
was
beating
he?
my mum.
No.
The man
Okay.
prior and the man prior and the man after, when my dad was around, there was some normality. I know normal's a cycle on the washing machine, but there was some normality. But my dad left when I was 8 years old. So until I was 36, I thought my dad left because he couldn't love me. And if my dad couldn't love me, who can love me?
And that is, oh my goodness, that is such an amazing point that you've made there.
Yeah.
Because this is what children do.
Yep.
Children, like as adults, we have logic and we can work things through and we still get it wrong. But children whose parents leave, especially under circumstances like that, where there is, as you said, limited normality, where you are not being brought up in an environment that is supportive and loving, and there's so much toxicity going on, and there's nothing to show you your value and worth anyway. But unless we are very, very careful as adults, we have to understand that when an adult leaves, a child will decide that it is their fault, that it is about them. And what they decide is that I am worthless, I am unlovable. And I've done this work many, many times, and that is actually the phrase that is ingrained in the subconscious. And that is then the thought process that someone uses to generate all of their thoughts, all of their actions, and all of their results.
And often the parent left because they did love them.
Yes.
That's what I discovered. He left because he loved me.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you expand on that so that people understand exactly what that means?
Okay, so that means that I went through 23 years of my ex-husband tried to kill me, literally, by stabbing me repeatedly. I have scars from my tips to my toes. I punished myself from the ages of 8 until 36 because I believed my dad left because he didn't love me, and if he couldn't love me, no one could love me.
And that's an amazing point, because I can tell you there will be so many people listening that can relate, because almost everyone I work with has that kind of feeling, that they were unlovable, and that if a parent couldn't love them, then they were unlovable. So thank you for that. What did your dad mean he left because he loved you?
Well, as I said, Mum and him started an affair. So he had a wife and 2 children. Yeah. And it was a very complicated relationship, as you can imagine. But I will say, when my dad wasn't around and it was my sister's dad, we were, you know, it was the type of thing that if my mum put the beans and the peas on the same next to each other on the plate, woofer, how dare you put them two greens together, to my dad may be serving us dinner. So like my dad, he tried so hard, he did so much, and even though my three sisters have passed, he had a huge influence on our life. And one day I hope I can find him and tell him that.
Wow, that's amazing. But you know, how confusing as a child to be caught in those two situations.
Yes.
That would be terrifying, because
Yeah.
you just wouldn't know. You wouldn't know where the next outburst was coming from.
Yes.
So you must have lived in a total in fear, 100% fear and anxiety. You must have done to have so much confusion and to just not know what was going to cause something to happen next.
Yeah. I often used to describe it as I was raised in a zoo, not with a family. Like my sister married prior to me in the same place, which we'll get into, one of Australia's most notorious criminals. He'd murdered 13 people, one of Australia's biggest heroin dealers, and she was three heroin addicts. So like, yeah, that was when I was like 13. Sorry, what was the question? I think.
Oh no, I was just, yeah, that's fine. I was just talking about how you must have lived in all this fear, and you said about that it was more like being brought up in a zoo.
Yeah,
And
sorry, yeah.
No, that's fine. You
Yeah.
went on to talk about your sister, and that shows the extent of the programming
Yes.
in your family, the extent of the damage that was done, that she felt so little of herself, so little worth, that she would consider marrying someone like that. And the fact that she did that tells you that that is what she thought she was worth.
Thank you. I've never really got to that conclusion, and God love that darling lady. Yeah, my sister, she hung herself in a prison cell in the end, and I never actually got that she married someone like that because she had no worth. Yeah, that's pretty special. I understand how low you'd have to be able to do that. What my sister did, but yeah, that was just I have so much admiration for my three sisters, what they went through and how they left this world, and yeah, that was nice. Thank you.
Oh, and to me, that's just because, I guess that's because that's how I talk to my clients.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
one of the first things that I point out to them.
Yeah, if they were that age, imagine what they seen if I seen what I've seen.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously it has an incredible impact. And, you know, talking about your sisters as well, all three of them.
Yeah.
Addiction. I'm always saying we need to change the way that we see addicts. We look at addicts as if there's something dirty to be avoided, as if there's something wrong with them. And I'm always saying we really need to change our thoughts, and not, I don't ever look at addicts, because most people that work with me have some kind of addiction.
Yeah.
Because we have to understand that addiction, people who are addicts, they're not addicts, they're hurting people.
That's right.
All addiction is about unmet childhood needs, and
yes.
the need to fill them.
Yes.
Filling that internal void with something outside of yourself.
And numbing the pain a lot of the time.
And if we can start to see addiction in that way, it would change everything.
Exactly.
That is what addiction is. No one is born thinking, oh, I'll grow up and be an addict.
No way.
It's because of the lack of value and worth. It's because of what gets shown to them. And as you say, it's because of that deep internal void and the pain that goes with it, and the desire to fill it. And as you say, to numb it, to escape it. And you can never do it with something outside of you.
No.
That has to come from in, as clearly you've discovered.
Yeah,
So how amazing that your experience, obviously your experience for so long was the same as your sister's, but in the end you've made a different decision. You've discovered
yes.
something else.
I often think I fascinate myself that I didn't go down the same way. Why didn't I just once try that needle, just numb the pain? And I I think it was my dad's genes. My dad was dux of his class. He was very high up in the police system. So I often think my mum's strength and my dad's genes have got me to where I am today. But um, yeah, my sisters were the sort of the laughing stock of the estate, you know what I mean? Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, being on the nod when they're on heroin. And I often reflect. I have a sister's birthday on the 24th of August. I have a sister's death anniversary on the 27th of August. And my mum passed away 2 years ago today. So I've just in the grieving process of reflecting and just reflecting on the fun times. But believe me, there was some really, really, really scary dark times when they were in the midst of their addiction. Yes.
Yeah, then I'm sure that's something that most of us can only imagine or even not imagine,
No,
you
you
know.
couldn't imagine. You couldn't imagine. Like my
Yeah.
sister leaving her child in a taxi to get her fix, and the taxi driver happened to take her little girl to the police station. Things as horrific as that. It went on and on, but I broke the cycle.
Yeah, and that's incredible. Breaking the cycle. What a wonderful phrase to use.
Yeah.
And it's important for everyone to understand that whatever you're going through, whatever you've been led to believe. Here's a phrase. I tell people the only thing that is ever wrong with anyone is what you have been led to believe about yourself.
Yes.
That's it,
Yes.
because
It
you know
is.
you are a product of everything that was fed into you. So if you feel there's something wrong with you, it's just something that you've been led to believe. And when
Yes.
we can simplify it in that way, but then you can look back and you can see the patterns because they're generational. Because
Yes.
if you are a product of your environment, your mum was a product of her environment, so was her parents, etc., etc. um,
Exactly.
Sometimes people say to me, oh yes, but sometimes how do you end up then with someone who's born into a middle class family, who has everything, who has education, and on the surface they have so many things, they might have a swimming pool, great holidays, a nice car. How does that person end up addicted? And it's not about having material things, it's
No.
the emotional things that we
Yep.
don't have. you know Often children who have all those things have absent parents. So then the child is thinking that the parent is more interested in other things. And again, I'm not lovable.
That's
What's
it.
wrong with me? My parents aren't, or strict and critical, controlling. There's so many things that can actually cause someone to become addicted or to have this internal void. So we have to understand that it doesn't all have to be situations like yours, although obviously they are horrific because you have no stability in your environment. you
No.
know so
Um, love shouldn't hurt. And why did I say that for?
because
Um,
it's significant, because it's
Significant.
important,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
valid.
I was going to, yeah, love shouldn't hurt. And like you said, usually it's someone external. And if you can, rise above and just even to look in a little bit, and see that there's something there to live for, and this world's worth you breaking the cycle. And like I have 5 children and 4 grandchildren, and imagine if I didn't break the cycle. Imagine.
Yes, so tell us that's fantastic. Yeah, that's great that changing changing the programming for everyone, not just for you, but for your children and your grandchildren. So tell us a little bit about that, because that's something that's really, that weighs on so many people. What have I done to my children? What have my children experienced? Some people don't even understand, but for those that do. So tell us about this. Tell us about the change that you made and the impact that it's had on your whole family.
Okay, so from my ex-husband who tried to kill me, I went to the father of my 5th child, still believing a black eye was full of love, and I probably had, in 6 years, if I didn't have 2 black eyes every couple of weeks, I had 1 black eye. So I had 4 children under 4 with my ex-husband. My son James was 3.5, Paris was 2, and I had my twins Clay and Jazz 5 days after Paris turned 2. So
That's cool. I've had twins. I wouldn't want twins with a 2-year-old.
And with the ex-husband. Once I got rid of him, everything was fine. Yeah. My children, this is a bit of a trigger warning. My ex-husband was a career criminal, a very horrible man, horrible man. I'm allowed to say that because I know now that he's dead, what he did to my nieces and my mother, if you get my drift.
Okay.
Yeah, he made my son James, like I said, this is a trigger warning. He made my son James, who was 4 years old, choose the knife to try and kill his mother. So
that's some serious stuff.
Yeah, like I said, this was.
And you know what? I think it's worth pausing, because people look at their situations and they think, I can't get out of this.
You can.
And you can, but look at what you went through and what you managed to escape from, and what you managed to turn around, and how you have turned around all of your processes and your thoughts and your programming and your beliefs about yourself.
Yes.
This can apply to everyone.
That's for your children. I was told back in the day, you stay for the children. I'm sure many generations were told that. You leave for the children. 2 happy homes are better than one that suffers.
Yeah, you don't stay. You don't, and this is what people don't understand, that you and your husband, you and your partner, you are the role models that the children are learning from. And if you are unhappy and you stay, the children have a warped view of what a happy, healthy, loving relationship is. And not only that, going back to what we spoke about in the beginning, anything that's wrong, all the darkness, all the toxicity, they think as children that it is their fault, that they are somehow to blame for this, or they wish they could put it right, and they end up feeling, well, I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, I can't correct this, I can't protect my mum, I can't change this, there must be something wrong with me, because they don't have the logic that an adult has. It is very, very damaging to stay in a toxic environment, in an unloving and unhealthy environment for the children. Thank you, Kelly. You leave for the children. Yes. Absolutely. You leave for the children.
I'm just going to throw something in there that's extremely important, and this is my legacy to the world. If you know someone in my situation, please, please, please don't ask, why don't you leave? The words you can say are, what can I do to help you get out safe? Someone in my situation thinks, I am safe. If you ask me, why don't you leave? I tick you off of my trust people that I can now turn to, because in my small little framed mind that the narcissists turned so narrow, you are judging me. If you say, what can I do to help you get out safe? I promise you that will change someone's life. If someone had said that to me 21 years ago, what do you mean safe? He bashes me because he loves me. We don't understand.
Mm. And that's the importance, the programming of what you've been taught. This is what I'm saying, and it fits with what you were saying about leave the children, because your programming was so toxic and taught you that love involved abuse.
Yes. Like I said,
That's why you thought you were safe. Yeah.
a black eye was as routine as a cup of coffee. And I'm just going to say that my darling son held on to that until he was 15 years of age. And when I was in the next relationship, what that poor child, what all my children went through, the beatings they seen me get. My son, James, he is the most amazing young man. All my children are amazing in their own unique, beautiful way. But you think this one is going to want to numb the pain. What he's seen, what his father made him do. I changed and he is the man he is today. I broke the cycle and them 5 kids are now productive adults.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Just
Yep.
being able to highlight to people the gift that is, and what happens when you change,
The
when
ripple
you
effect.
break that cycle. Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely amazing.
Yes. I'm just going to add something else there, Sarah. I mentioned before where my sister and I were married. My sister married, as I said, one of Australia's most notorious criminals in what we call Her Majesty's Prison, Melbourne,
Yeah.
Pentridge, Victoria. I married my ex-husband at the age of 19 in exactly the same place 8 years later. Her Majesty's Prison, Pentridge, Victoria. And another thing I've overcome, so I just wanted to, I think that's quite important. It's a little bit of history and just once again the programming.
Yeah, and I was about to say that I do think it's really important, because again it highlights the patterns that we pick up, and that we are living our lives following patterns that have been taught to us, you know. And what we need to do is stop and look at the patterns and see what we're doing and how valid are they, you know.
Yes,
um,
yes,
but going back to what you were saying about your son as well, and tying it into what you said about how you leave for the children, because for children to see their father abusing their mother in that way, it is so significantly damaging. We have to understand that there are lots of children in schools who have been diagnosed with ADD, ADHD, autism, Asperger's, because they are slow and they are disconnected. And it's possible that they don't actually have those things at all. Bipolar is actually CPTSD in many cases. And
yes.
what happens when children are in those situations, number one, physically, they disconnect, they
That's
disassociate.
such a perfect word.
Yeah. And also, scientifically, the way your body works, your frontal cortex becomes impaired. That's your learning center, because more of your resources that should be evenly distributed through your body for different tasks, when you are in constant fear, your body calls on resources to deal with the fear, and the frontal cortex becomes impaired. So we have
Yes,
to understand that I know things are changing, but there are many, many children that have been diagnosed with things that they don't have, because there isn't an understanding of what's actually going on in their background, what they are reacting to. And I've worked with many, many adults who have come to understand that as children they were mislabeled, and that actually what they were doing, their behavior was simply a reaction to their environment. And sometimes it was because they were being abused themselves, and sometimes it was because they were observing abuse. But all this withdrawal, this dissociation, this looking out the window, this daydreaming, not connecting with others, not being able to concentrate on work and tasks, it's where the whole system is being disrupted by your external environment. I think that's important to bring in as well.
Yes, I call them the invisible scars.
Yes.
I still live with them every day. Yeah. And you can't see them, so often quite hard for other people to understand them too. But like while you were speaking then, I was thinking at the age of 13 what was happening in my life, and I just had a sort of another lovely realization that why I broke the cycle, because I went from growing up like that to narcissist abuse from the ages of 13 to 36. I didn't know what a narcissist was. It's only the last couple of years that I've understood why it's hard for me to pay a $500 bill that I think $300 too much, but I'll pay it because I'm too scared to make the phone call. And I've understood over the years with my just self-discovery that is quite common.
Just expand on that for people. And as far as I know from what I do, the reason you would be too scared to query it is because you have been taught that you are always wrong. You've been taught not to trust yourself. So therefore you're looking at it knowing that you're right, but also you've got this conflict feeling that you can't be. And also, of course, you've been programmed to avoid conflict at all costs.
Yes, yeah. Exactly. So yeah, and feeling stupid because you've been told you're a dumb bee for the last however many years, even when you're out of it. You know, the words can be really scarring, and you don't feel worthy of even that person's time to have the conversation. You know, after my ex-husband tried to kill me, then the next 6 years, even though I had 2 black eyes every couple of weeks, when this man left me, I tried to kill myself. I literally took an overdose and tried to kill myself. I had 5 children. This is what they do to your brains. So thank goodness I woke up that next morning and that was my rock bottom. That was my rock bottom. The only way was up. The only way was up. How dare me do that to my 5 children? And it's taken years after that, but how dare me? They deserve better, and they've got a mum that can prove to them that anything's possible, and I'll do that forever and leave the legacy. Don't ask her why doesn't she leave.
Amazing. So that decision that you made, how dare I, in that moment, can you remember, were you thinking, how dare I take an overdose? I know that was part of it, but was it also the broader picture? How dare I allow my children to live like this? How dare I allow this to happen? Or a combination of all of those things?
Yes. James was probably 15, 15, 13, 11-year-old twins. And Lexus is a tiny girl. Like, how dare I? They didn't be asked to be brought into this world, and I'm passing on what I've lived. How dare I try and take a parent from their children? What right do I have to let my children growing up in a zoo? It has to stop. And if the narcissists do not change, you have to change. Unfortunately, they are your responsibility, and they need you to be the best you can be so they can be the best they can be. Not carry on that baggage, that horrible, horrible, horrible history, past.
And this is the point we always get to in every podcast where people reveal, because people always say, well, how do I make that change? How do I start? And there is always a rock bottom, and there is always a decision.
Yes.
This is the decision.
Yes.
And that's where everyone I interview reveals their decision point, their rock bottom moment, where it's like flipping a switch. I did it myself.
I can see it now.
In a different way, but it's like, it is like that, isn't it? It's like a realization, a dawning. It might as well be that someone flipped the switch. And here's the important thing: when you make that decision, you don't know how, do you? You don't know how, you don't know who, you don't know what, when, why. You don't have any of the details or any plan. None of that matters. All you have is the decision that moving forward is going to be different.
Yes.
That's the decision that you have. So just in case people are thinking, but I don't have this, I don't know this, I don't have, it doesn't matter.
Can you imagine what I had? My 5 children and me. That's what I had.
That's why these stories are so important, because it really paves the way for people who are in the most horrific of circumstances to understand that you can move forward.
Yes.
You can do something here. And I'm going to, what we'll do, we'll put in the notes that phrase that you came up with. I mean, I know not to ask someone, why don't you leave? Because that's just too extreme for anyone in that situation. But the phrase you use, what can I do to help you get out safe?
Yes. In a lot of people's, it's their best interest to say, why don't you leave? And that's my education. That's who I'm teaching, the people that don't understand that I'm now judging you because I'm thinking that you're judging me. So now I'm ticking you off my list of people that, when it does come to dire straits. So it's for the people that don't understand that either, because your greatest intention is trying to help. And I don't just it comes through.
They don't understand the intensity of the programming that sits behind what keeps you there. Yes, you're taught that people see it as a surface thing. They see it as physical abuse. But the kind of abuse that you endure comes from somewhere, and it comes from a childhood programming. Yes. You know, in most cases, or it comes from a very deep emotional void. You know, so all of those things come into play. And I know people with the best intentions to say, why don't you leave? As I said, they don't understand the complexity of what sits behind it. Yes. And you're taught that no one cares about you. You're scum of the earth. Yeah. When you, I'm not saying through my child. Well, yes, my mum didn't teach me that, but my narcissist abuse did. That, you know, you're worth nothing. Don't bother trying to get help, because no one cares about you. Yeah, so that means then that when someone maybe indicates that they do care, you immediately don't trust that, because how can that be true? Exactly. How can you care about me? Why would you care about me? What am I to you? That immediate mistrust. So and I want people to discover that before it took for me to try and take my life, to understand that people care. I want people to know that people do care, and a lot of people have your best interests at heart. Just reach out and hopefully just take it one day at a time. And I think the important thing about that is that even people that don't know you care. Yes. You know, yes. As human beings, we are designed to care. Yes. We care very much about the hurts of other people. Yes. You know, so even people who don't know you care. Yes, that's it. Sometimes you care more than the people that do know you. Yes, and that's, that do know you are part of your problem.
You seen the way I responded when you said that. Yes, yes, yes. It's often the people that you don't know, or you don't know that they care, or they have, that have interest in you. Yeah, in a nice way. They don't want anything from you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. They don't need anything in return.
No. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Well, Kelly, you've certainly, shared a lot there, and shown people in your situation that you can move forward. So just tell us a little bit now about, so what do you do at the moment? I know your passion for paying it forward. So how does that look for you? How are you involved? What are you doing?
Okay, so I'm an ambassador for a couple of domestic violence organisations. So what I do is I share my story as much as possible instead of being ashamed of my story. I'm very proud of my story, and I share for others, and I want women and children to know that you leave for the children. I want children to know what respectful relationships look like, and break that programming. So I do lots of talks, and yeah, I just want to be able to share, and let people know anything is possible. Anything is possible.
Amazing. So, well, thank you so much. Is there a way that people can get hold of you? I mean, we'll put it in the show notes, but ooh, we'll put it in the show notes.
Just
But
just
gone.
really
So some people are just listening.
sorry.
Some
just
people are just listening.
just really Facebook page at the moment, which is Kellie Carter Bell. And if you want to share my email address, that's fine with me as well. I'm going to say something else before we finish. Can I please? Just another realization. Yes. So, okay. I'm not good at computers, and this is just another learning tool for people who don't understand what domestic violence can look like. I'm not good at computers, so when I said you can share my email, one day with my last partner, I pressed the shutdown button on the old, bigger computer, shutdown button too quick, and I was knocked out on the floor with 2 black eyes, because what was I hiding? Why did I close that computer so quick? That was, goodness, 17 years ago. I just got better at the computer. I didn't understand why. I thought every time I press something, I'm going to break the internet, or something's coming from the side. And that's what it was. So just another invisible scar, just to let people know what domestic violence can look like. And if someone can't respond to an email or doesn't know how to reply to an email, they never know, there could be a little story behind that.
Yeah, I actually worked with someone recently who was very, very distressed. She had an extreme reaction to technology,
Yeah.
and very similar,
Yeah.
something in her past.
Yep.
It wasn't domestic abuse, but it was childhood abuse,
Yep.
where she had been abused when she did the wrong thing,
Yeah.
and that's where the fear came from. And yeah, it's important to remember, and also for us to be patient and to have compassion, because
Yes.
we don't know why people can't do certain things, and none of us can do everything. We all
That's
have
it.
things that we do well and things that we do badly. So
That's right.
we just have to have understanding, and not judge people for what they can't do,
Yeah.
and just help them with patience and kindness.
That's right.
So yeah, thank you for sharing that, because I'm sure there are so many people in your situation. That's not an unusual story to hear, where someone has been beaten or emotionally abused for literally closing down a computer in a
Yes.
perfect normal way,
Yes.
or not being able to get to something and being accused of not wanting to get there, or all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And it's question of realizing that these things, they're all lies. Like I
Yes,
said, the only thing that's wrong with you is what someone else has made you believe about yourself.
that's
That's
right.
so true.
And just one more thing, you don't have to have a black eye for it to be abuse. We all know that by now,
No,
don't we? Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Emotional abuse is absolutely rife.
Yes, that's where the invisible scars still until today play a little part in my life.
But you've done amazingly. Look at where you are now. Look at what you've done for your children. And most importantly, you've broken the generational pattern.
Yeah, already
This,
9 lives, which is just like, what more can you ask for? You know,
it's
you leave for the children.
yeah, fantastic. Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
hopefully more people will take that on board.
Yes.
So thank you so much, Kelly. Thank you for sharing what you have, and I'm sure that your story and your message will have an impact on many people. So thank you so much for what you do and what you share.
Thank you. I'm absolutely honoured. Yeah, thank you.